Namaste. Today we have with us Professor Dr. Shiva Subramanian, who is a very well known neonatologist, actually the Chief of Division of Neonatology and Professor, Department of Pediatrics in Georgetown. He is also one of the most distinguished Hindu leaders of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area and is one of the founding fathers and founding president of Sri Shiva Vishnu Temple, which is the premier Hindu temple of Northern America. Sir, we know that a Hindu's life is led according to one of the three major paths: the Gyan, the Karma, and the Bhakti. The temple helps a Hindu to lead the dharmic life according to one or more of these paths. Of course, Bhakti Marg is the main focus of all the temples. But we also know that all through history, the temples have been not only the centers of learning, but they have been patronizing learning and arts in a big way. In that context, what is your view of the role of temples here in the United States, or for that matter, the whole of the Western world, far away from the cultural landscape of India, for supporting the path of knowledge or the Gyan Marg?
Thank you. Namaskar. Om Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We always, in any conversation, salute the teacher. And that is why, you start with the Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. And that is a hallmark of Sanatana Dharma. So this is something that we realized in the 70s when we started coming to this country and organizing and forming the temples and so on and so forth. Obviously, as you correctly said, the first focus was on bhakti. And that is the major focus of temples, the rituals and all the bhajans and kirtans that go with it. And so we were very focused on making sure a grand facility would be available to make the various different deities available for those who have come from 8,000-10,000 miles away, and as well as in various parts of the world, and they have come here. So we focused on that, and we got that accomplished. And by 1990 to 95, we had established all of those things, at the Sri Shiva Vishnu Temple. As you mentioned, it is one of the largest temples actually in North America. There are a few which are probably in square feet bigger, than this. And so this is something that was functioning very well. And you correctly pointed out, in terms of the two other margs, pathways, in terms of karma, that of action, and as well as jnana or jnana, which is that of knowledge. So the karma was able to accomplish by having the priests here. We were able to make sure we can have all the rituals and at the home and here can be done on samskaras or personal use, in terms of various things. So that we were able to accomplish. And also the karma component that you are talking about also emphasizes, regardless of what job you do that job with the focus of it is in the Lord's hand. And with that also, that has been continuing by bringing a lot of lecturers, gurus, teachers here to be able to teach about those things. But we were not as focused as about the pathway of knowledge. And even from the very beginning, we have done like teaching shlokas to the various children, and there were volunteer teachers available to be able to do that. It was not very fully organized, and it was not done for many years. And about now 15 years ago, when Puja Swamiji Dayananda Saraswati Ji, who came here, gave a wonderful lecture, and then went upstairs and saw all the deities. And when he did that, he came down, and then we actually, in this room, education room, we talked about, and he was asking, going upstairs is like a Kshetradanam. That is going around, in India, for the various places of extraordinary places of worship. And so that is great. You have done a great job. But what have you done in terms of teaching older children, young adults, and adults about our Sanatana Dharma? Even though traditionally we call it Hinduism, it is the eternal religion or eternal way, or Sanatana Dharma is what is talked about. And so this is something that triggered in us the need for doing this. And then we started bringing more teachers more often to be able to do it. But then as we discussed, we realized it's even more important that we establish a temple of knowledge, Vidya Alayam, so which is literally means Vidya, knowledge, Alayam means the temple, the house of knowledge, the temple, is what it's all about. And so we started this, Vidyalayam, and so we are going to move forward in terms of in a more organized way.
The generation which immigrated to the United States after India's independence has already become grandparents. The second generation could not keep the kind of contact with India that their parents had. Now, the third generation is all the more cut off from the cultural roots and moorings. What are your thoughts about how they will be able to continue the great cultural and knowledge heritage that Hinduism gives us?
This is an excellent question. This is something that as first generation we have been struggling with in terms of how do we get them engaged, in terms of to understand the beauty and the enormous knowledge that is available, both for the material, day-to-day life, the practical ways, as well as for the knowledge that focuses on in terms of the moksha, liberation from the cycle of this birth and death and the samsara. Yes. And so, and when we are looking at this, we said we have to do different things. So one of the things we did to engage the youngsters is we started seva, service activities. And so we do, the sandwich preparation for the homeless. We actually go to the DC kitchen and cook 4,000 meals, for homeless people. We have done more than 1 million meals like that. Of course, the youngsters were involved in that and they were very willing to be able to come. But it still did not have the impact of what we wanted to get to the root of your question. How do we import the knowledge about the Sanatana Dharma? And so the only way that we could do is to, we started in the last year some seminars. It's like 2 to 3 hours, focus on a topic per month. And, then they can at least, we can talk about in terms of the various different functions that we do. And then there we communicate some of those things as well. Even that is not sufficient. So we said, okay, let us now move to the next step where these children and the grandchildren will more likely to be able to listen is actually like a college, to do this in an organized format for beginners, intermediate, and advanced level of knowledge seekers and their ability. And then maybe we are able to give even certificates for each one of the levels that they achieve. So it's more rigorous educational format that we are in the process of putting together. So understanding distance is a problem. And there are people who are, other than in the District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia area, who may be seeking this knowledge. We want to actually take it up in the web as a streaming, web online, and then be able to put it on the website as well. And so that these lectures, discussions, and different kinds of formats can be taken, but with a curriculum, that is done. So we have been talking to various professors and who are a great knowledge of the Sanatana Dharma, and as well as the gurus and the teachers of this. And we are in the process of putting this together, and we'll be starting very soon, in terms of these classes.
In contrast to many rich organizations, the temple has been funded only by the individual devotees. It was never funded by any state organization or any rich organization. I know that in the beginning, some of our founding fathers had even mortgaged their houses to fund the construction of the temple. So today, how do we propose to collect funds for the kind of highly ambitious projects that we want to embark upon? What role do you see for programs like Shri Medha Vidya Varidhi Mahotsavam?
So thank you for that question, because recognizing the importance in Sri Sivavatana Temple every year, that's a Mahotsavam. So they perform based on a deity. We do a major Mahotsavam. And this year, we decided that with the Hindu pantheon of gods that are focused on education, like Lord Dakshinamurti, Lord Ganesha, of course, Goddess Saraswati, and Lord Hayagriva. These are four deities that have been traditionally focused on both para and apara vidya, both knowledge of what is important here in the materialistic life, as well as in the spiritual knowledge of what it is beyond. And so when we said this is something with the blessings of the acharyas, we decided that we will perform a major utsavam or function for these four deities. And so that is what is called Sri Medha Vidya Varidhi Mahotsavam. In a way, celebrating the vast ocean of learning, which is what we are trying to do. And so for that function is like a kickoff for this and a kickstart for this fundraising as well. As you said, in those days, the kings did build the temples and did all the buildings and all those things. But as you correctly pointed out, no government at this point functions these things, supports these functions. And so these days, the kings are the devotees. And so the devotees are the Rajas. And so they are the ones now have to support, these, educational activities that places like the Sri Sivavatana Temple is organizing. So we really ask for the support of all of you to support in kind, in your time, and with your help in terms of inputs and knowledge, in terms of creating this Vidyalaya, and for which obviously we need to make modifications for the educational room and eventually probably a building, which will hopefully lead to a school and varsity, eventually. But at this point, we want to start, with that, and it needs also a lot of, the current modern technology that is required, and that also, have some cost. So we would definitely like the support of all the public, who are coming, the devotees here and as well as throughout the world, to be able to support this effort.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.